is to approve certificates of appropriateness for new construction or major work, and to do so by conducting hearings and making findings of fact when applications come before us. Our mission is to take no action except to preserve and approve that which is congruous with the special character of the Village of Pinehurst Historic District. I'm Eric Von Salzen, Chairman. I'm going to ask each of the commissioners to state their names, starting from my far left.
Richard Vincent.
Thomas Schroeder.
Ann Lucy.
Are we all mic'd?
Ann Lucy, can you turn your mic on, please? I don't see the green light. Yep, we're good.
Also present are Peter Hughes, Senior Planner, and Kelly Brown, Planning and Administrative Assistant. I have your title right still? Good, okay. We have one member missing, but we have a quorum, so we can proceed. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so anyone desiring to testify must be sworn in, and we are required to consider only facts presented in this hearing. Are video recorded. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of our last two meetings. First, with respect to our work session of August 12th, are there any corrections to suggest to those minutes? None?
Accept. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. With respect to our regular meeting of July 23, are there any comments for corrections? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. I'd like to ask one of the commissioners to make a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Before we proceed, I'd like to ask the commissioners to disclose any site visits with respect to all properties that are on our agenda today, and disclose any parking communications. Richard, will you start?
Travel to all the sites, saw all of them, no ex parte communication.
Thomas Schroeder traveled to all of the sites, had no ex parte communication with anybody.
I traveled to all except the Savile Row. I'm familiar with that area, but did not go out there this time, and no ex parte communications.
I saw all of the sites, had no ex parte communications.
Visited all the sites, no communication.
And I visited all the sites and no communications.
All right, the next order of business is to swear in Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes, do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, now, our first case on the agenda,
Excuse me, before we begin, the minor work, are we going to mention that at all?
That's at the end of the meeting. Yeah, we can move it at the front of, in
Sorry,
the future
sorry.
if you
Okay.
guys would like.
That's fine.
all right, our first case, COA 2020-00098, involves 55 Shaw Road. I understand we have a different witness and had originally been scheduled for that case. Is that correct?
That is correct. The Conleys couldn't make it, so they asked a representative to represent them, and I provided an email to the chair that Mr. Wilkinson will be that representative.
Wilkinson, will you come forward?
Coming forward, can I ask that that email be included in the record?
It'll be submitted in the record at the end of my presentation, and then the clerk will have a copy as well.
Mr. Wilkinson, will you raise your right hand, please? Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would you state your full name and your address?
My name is, Andrew Wilkinson, and I reside at 40 Pine Vista Drive in Pinehurst.
You are familiar with the application in this case,
I am.
and you've been asked by the applicants to represent them since they couldn't make it here today?
I have been, and they regret that they couldn't make it today.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who intends to present testimony on this case? If so, I can swear you in now. All right, I see no volunteers. So we will proceed. Peter, would you like to present the information on this case?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District for multiple exterior modifications at 55 Shaw Road. The modifications include the following: replacement of existing siding, removal of multiple trees, a rear yard addition, replacement of windows with different material, and re-roof of the structure. The property can be further identified in Moore County Tax Registry by Moore County PIN number 855-212-951-773. The property owners are Peter and Kathleen Conley, and today the applicant is Mr. Andrew Wilkinson. This is some photos from 55 Shaw. Here we have the one on the left is a current photo, and then on the right we have two photos. One photo is taken by staff. The older photo is a historic photo showing the residence back in the 1940s, and then the lower photo is a photo of today taken from Shaw Road. Some background on the property: there are no previous CUAs that have been issued for the property, but it is a contributing structure, along with all the properties adjacent to the public hearing notification are all contributing structures. 55 Shaw Road was constructed in 1908 and is considered the log cabin, or as its moniker. It is located in the heart of the Pinehurst Historic District, and these were the properties that were notified. A total of 11 properties were notified. As you can see, we have 55 Shaw, 60 Cherokee, and 55 Cherokee, and 65 Cherokee. All those have come before the commission in the last 4 months, so we're kind of seeing a transition or some modifications to that street and some much needed maintenance. This request is before the commission because the removal of trees greater than 12 inches in diameter breast height, additions to existing historic structures, and replacement of architectural features and replacement of roofing with a different material or style from that being replaced are all considered major work items. The request includes a 400 square foot addition to the primary structure, removal of multiple trees, including removal of trees greater than 12 inches in diameter breast height, addition of a chimney on the rear elevation, replacement of siding with like-for-like material, replacement of windows with modern aluminum clad windows, reconfiguration of a driveway, and replacement of the existing roof with the option for metal or shingle roofing. So the last part, they're asking for permission for two options there. They're leaning towards the shingle, but they want the option to put a metal roof on. So the proposed roofing material, we have a red asphalt shingle, and we have a green metal roofing. Both materials are compliant with the guidelines. The proposed siding material is log timbers. It's hard to find an exact like for like, but they have chosen a material that is like for like as much as they can. It's hard to replace timbers that were found in 1894 when the structure was being constructed. The proposed windows are Pella windows. They are aluminum clad. Aluminum clad is a material that is consistent with the guidelines. However, it is inconsistent with the guidelines, and it's a guideline recommendation that it's inconsistent with, to replace street-facing windows that are wood with non-wood windows. So by changing the street-facing windows to aluminum clad, that it's an inconsistency with the guidelines, but that inconsistency is only with the recommendation, so it's a should versus a must. The proposed brick chimney is going to be located where the existing garage is, so they're doing an interior modification that's going to change that garage to living space, and they're going to add a chimney to it. They will maintain that drive as a parking area, but they will be closing another driveway access, so they will be limited to 2 driveway access points along Azalea. The chimney will be of brick material to match the existing chimney on site. Here's the submitted site plan showing both the addition and chimney. The addition is on the left side of the structure, and the chimney is on the rear side of the structure adjacent to Azalea. So the front elevation, as you can see, they did all 4 elevations. There aren't any changes to the elevation other than those new windows, and those new window details are compliant with existing features and architecture, but again, we're going from wood to aluminum clad. Here on the left elevation, you can see that they're bumping it out. Currently, there's a little stone patio area that they used to maybe hang and dry clothes, and they're going to bring out that addition I believe 12 feet by about 18 feet. They're going to insert new windows to match the existing windows on site, and then they are swapping one window. If you look to the left on the screen, they're right by the staircase, they're swapping a window for a door. The addition is taking out a door, and they're just adding a door back, so they have access to that side of the property. This is the right elevation. There are no substantial changes. They're really just replacing the roof, replacing the timbers, and replacing windows. There aren't any structural changes to this side of the home. And again, on the rear elevation, the same thing is occurring as on the other elevation, which is they're replacing a few of the rotten timber logging siding with some of the windows, as well as the brick chimney. All right, so 55 Shaw is proposing a lot of tree removal, and the initial staff report dated August 20th, staff stated that there were 60 trees up for removal, and that was based on spray paint marks on trees that were identified during my site visit. After that, the applicant contacted me and said that was, those marks were made in error by the previous property owner's landscaper, and it was her opinion of what trees should come down. They went back out to the site, they marked the trees again, and it came out to 27 significant trees, and they described significant as trees taller than 15 feet. So they identified these 27 trees, so that's a decrease in 33 trees that I previously noted. Of those 27 trees, 8 of them are proposed to be removed from the interior of the lot, so they wouldn't be before you anyways, because the historic district guidelines say 12 dBH if they're visible from the street. So if they came before me, this would be handled by staff, but as a whole package, you have to consider everything that they're doing. Of those 8 trees, 3 are being removed to accommodate the addition on the left elevation. 1 is being removed to accommodate the new driveway reconstruction, and then the additional 4 are interior to the courtyard. If we go back a few slides, we see that they have a weird little interior courtyard, and the trees are being removed from there. An addendum to this effect was attached to your packet this afternoon, so it will be entered in the record at the conclusion of my presentation. So here's a picture from 55 Shaw showing where the driveway might go with the red box. So in this reconfiguration of the driveway, no mature trees along the street facade will be altered. They're going to weave the driveway in between. Some understory trees will be taken out, like bushes and things that are not mature or anything greater than 12 dBH. But of those trees that are under 12 dBH, they're not significant. They're probably less than 3 or 4 inches in caliper size. And here's a picture from Azalea, and this is where the majority of the trees are going to come out that come into play for that street visible trees being removed. So we have 19 trees coming out. And that's between the brick wall, if you guys made that site visit, between the brick wall and the house. And it's just, there's a lot of trees there, and right now you can't see the house, and they're just trying to clean out a lot of the trees in there. The applicants told me that the old property owner had this belief that if it started growing, they left it, and that's kind of evident. There's probably over 150 trees on this property, just for some perspective. And of those 19 trees, maybe 3 are of mature size. One in particular is right by where my car is parked. It's the mature tree on the arc of the driveway that's on your site visit. If you can see my cursor, it's right here. It is greater than 12 dBH, and it is a more mature tree than the typical mature tree that we're looking at. And then, so on the front, one of those interior trees I was talking about is a large, I believe, holly tree. And maybe Andy Wilkinson will correct me on that. There's a couple of reasons why this one was supposed to be removed. It's because they're removing it. One, it's a large tree that's looming over the home, and one day they're afraid that it may fall over, but also it is for that new driveway that's coming in. So in their modification of the driveway, they are having to take out that one interior mature tree. This was a site plan aided to help you guys, done by staff, showing you where these trees were going to come out. So we have the 3 trees by the left elevation where the addition's going in. We have the 4 trees that are interior that are being taken out for foundation. They're just really close to the home, and they just want to take those out to make sure that they don't have any future foundational issues. And then they have 1 tree by the driveway being taken out. And then here we have those 19 that we were talking about with the 1 mature tree right here at the corner. This is the submitted building material list. All their materials are compliant with the guidelines. However, like I said, there was inconsistency with the recommendation in the guidelines that the wood windows were going to be turning into aluminum clad. At this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record: the staff report, presentation, application, applicant's material, photo, site plans, the findings of fact, the staff addendum, and the email from the applicants allowing Mr. Wilkinson to testify today.
Thank you, Peter. Ms. Boakson, will you like to provide your comments on this application?
I would. I have just very brief comments that mirror somewhat what Peter mentioned, which we appreciate, and I'll read them now. It's short. My name is Andrew Wilkerson, as I was introduced, and I'm here representing Peter and Kathleen Connolly. They're very excited about this project at 55 Shaw Road, and the Connollys do realize that Centerwood is an important part of historic Old Town Pinehurst. The Connollys have maintained a home in Pinehurst for over 20 years, and they are invested in Old Town Pinehurst. The Connollys bought the old post office in 2013 and renovated it for the purposes of the current tenants, Given Bookshop and the Roast Office. And they feel that that arrangement has been mutually beneficial for both the library, the coffee shop, and actually the village of Pinehurst also. Peter Hughes has been kind enough to spend a couple of hours on the property with me on 2 occasions to discuss tree removal and a few other aspects of the proposed project, and I will only address the proposed tree removal at this time. The Connollys understand the importance of tree canopy to the historic district and in particular to this property. And unfortunately, there perhaps has been a misunderstanding about the trees that were marked with orange spray paint. In a discussion with the previous landscaper of 55 Shaw Road, the Connollys learned that she had proceeded to mark those trees for removal without the Connollys' consent. The removal of the trees marked with orange paint was not and is not the intent of the Connollys. Over the course of 2 meetings on site with Mr. Hughes and in telephone conversations with Mr. Hughes, the Connollys and I have developed a tree removal plan that meets the needs of the Connollys while minimizing any change to the perimeter tree line of the property. The trees are only proposed for removal that accommodate a relocated entrance driveway to thin for tree health and the establishment of a grassed ground cover that are immediately adjacent to or overhanging the residence or impede the one addition to the house. For these purposes, 27 total trees are proposed for removal, which, per conversation with Mr. Hughes, he estimates at that time that only 11 or 12 of those are mature. That's my statement.
All right, thank you. Questions from members of the commission?
Just a question more out of curiosity as opposed to the actual application. When I drove by along Azalea Road, it looks like where the fireplace addition is now the only garage door.
That is,
They're just going to give that up and use the interior space for something else?
that will be converted to a guest room, and they will not have a garage on the property.
Nice guest room with a fireplace in it.
I think so, yeah.
Please go ahead.
First, I want to commend you and your team for doing a fantastic job. The design, I think, is a real benefit to what is obviously a truly historic piece of Pinehurst, particularly the front porch piece. I think that goes a long way in improving that elevation of the house, so congratulations, good work. A lot of these questions that I have are really clarification, so I understand exactly what it is you're proposing to do.
Okay.
Drawings are great. I appreciate that. Very helpful. Regarding the roof options, you've got a red, I presume a red composition shingle roof. Peter, this may be more a question for you. How red is red? Have we actually seen a sample?
So during COVID, I've only asked for digital samples. I haven't seen a physical sample, but existing conditions is a red roof. If you look at the front picture, the existing roof is red, so it would match existing.
Is that true? Does the red you're proposing
Yes,
match that red?
the current roof is red, yes. Mhm.
But as we all know, there's red and then there's red. So real question is, does it truly match?
I believe so, yes. Mhm.
Second question, the green standing seam. Same question, how green is green?
It's green on my screen. It's not
greener than
conveying
that.
It looks very gray up there, I have to admit, but it's yeah.
Surely we are all handicapped by the COVID pandemic. So we can't see
Yeah.
what green is green, so
Right.
we have to do something to try to come to?
There is green, and then there's what has commonly been referred to for decades around here as Pinehurst green. And if the Connollys use the green roof, and they are leaning towards the shingle roof, which is the vast majority of the roof that is there now, but if they happen to use a green roof, it will be the Pinehurst green, which is generally a darker green, not a bright green.
All right. Gutters. I see no sign on the drawings of gutters. Will there be gutters?
I don't believe so, no.
No gutters. Chimney, it says you're going to match the existing brick. That's a Herculean effort. How are you going to do that?
That is the intention, is to match that chimney that is there now. The Connolly's contractor, and I'm sorry that he could not be here today either, is someone who specializes in older log homes from over in Cabarrus County. And he, intends to find older brick that'll match the older chimney that's there now. Use that.
Actual old brick. That's fantastic. Windows. Lots of questions about the windows. So let me start with, there's some conflicting information in your submission about the type of window. In one case here, you're saying in your submission that the windows are Pella Lifestyle Series wood windows, and in another place they are called another line. I'm not finding it in my notes. Pella Reserve Traditional.
And are those the aluminum ones that are referred to, I believe?
Traditional comes both aluminum clad and true wood. The Lifestyle is clad, so I don't know which.
They intend to use the aluminum clad windows, is their intention.
Fortunately, they just say,
There's wood there.
It says wood there, correct.
Right, the application, if it says wood, that's in error.
so we're
they would like to
satisfied
use
it's clad.
aluminum clad, yes, sir.
Know which of the two series you're thinking of? The only reason I ask is they offer different options when it comes to the divided light design, the Muntin design and size, and so forth.
Yeah. Mr. Connolly just told me it was the higher level Pella, the most energy efficient one, and I'm not sure I know the exact brand name they have. And if you don't see it in your materials, then I doubt I have it in mine, because
Okay.
I don't have anything different than what you have.
When you say most energy efficient, is it triple glazed? And the reason I ask is that the Muntins get much bigger for triple glazed.
I don't know that. Just know that that's just what he told me.
To follow along the same line, I know you're on the spot. In order for us to assess whether the new window, the proposed new modern aluminum clad window is a good match to the existing windows, which some of which appear to me to be 50 or 60 or 80 or 90 years old, including the glass in them, and they're fantastic. Matching them with the new aluminum clad window will be very difficult, but for us, without having some dimensions of the existing windows and their parts and pieces, it's difficult for me to assess whether they are a match.
Yeah.
Do you have any information about those details?
Just that's why he picked the Pella window that he did, that he felt it best matched the existing windows, which are, in many cases, like you say, very old, they're decades old, and the glass has been changed out in a number of them. But he felt that the Pella window that he was picking out best matched the existing windows that are there, as far as appearance.
The submission indicates you're going to paint the windows green, but on one of the submissions, there's a cut sheet from the Pella Lifestyle Series, which is the less traditional of the two, where three various colors are checkmarked or circled. Is it going to be green, or is it going to be one of those three colors?
And to make them green.
Green. So it'll be one of the greens that are available in the Pella window that you choose.
Yes, sir. I can't tell you exactly which one that is, no.
For you, Peter, the street-facing windows would be almost all the windows on the house.
Unfortunately, the house has 3 sides that face the street. Yeah.
Although very difficult to see the house from Carolina Vista.
That's the other thing, is it's very shielded. It's going to remain that way. They're going to want it that way going past Highway 5. They're going to want that privacy to continue being in that downtown area where people are going to park when they're in town to celebrate for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, when they're in town for the US Open. They're going to want to maintain that.
Yeah, so there's some help there. On the proposed left elevation, there's a new double door on the elevation, but not on the plan. I presume the elevation is correct?
For the addition
No,
that you're
not
referring
in the
to?
addition. It looks like it's serving a bedroom.
This double door here on the left elevation,
Yes, that one.
so that used
That's-
to be a window. And the addition took out the door on that side. So in order to make that swap, because they didn't put a door with the new addition, was they took out a window that was there and put a door in.
Okay, so the plan is wrong, the elevation is right.
That elevation's correct.
Okay. Looking at that elevation and that door, it appears there's no stoop. I presume you're going to be adding some kind of a stoop to that door, a porch, something?
Yes, the existing stoop is actually going to be covered, so it's actually coming out to an existing patio.
Okay, so there'll be some steps or something down to the patio? What material will those be?
The existing patio is bluestone, and it'll match that.
Okay. So by my count, Peter, I see 4 new windows all total, including the 4 on the addition, and 2 new doors, one of which is a double door, just for the record. That's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions from any other members of the commission? Okay. All right, I'll ask again, is there anyone else who wants to be heard on this case? Otherwise, we will go into our deliberations among the members of the commission. Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson.
Welcome.
A whole bunch of corrections we've got to make to the package as we go through it. One of them.
Hey, Tom, can you scoot close to your mic? You're not being picked up.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
I see several corrections to the package. For example, if we just go back to the materials list, where it says we're going to be wood windows, it's my understanding those are actually going to be aluminum clad windows. So those things will be delineated so that they get into the package, because the building inspector that goes out there is going to read the package, not our thoughts. So the one I would do, if we could go back to the, yeah, so the windows are going to, that should be changed from wood, according to my understanding of the testimony. Wood, existing wood, proposed material would be aluminum, is that, and they are going to be painted green, or will be green from construction. Other changes, and I think there were a couple of others that you mentioned.
There are several, although some of them we don't have answers for. And we're lacking the detail that, for me, is required to assess whether they're a good match to the existing. In particular, those features that would be helpful would be the details of the existing windows, the parts and pieces and their dimensions, particularly the sightline dimension of the muntin. That's going to be the most challenging, particularly if the windows are triple glazed, because those windows that are triple glazed generally have very fat muntins. We don't know if they're triple glazed. We have no information, detail and dimension-wise, about the existing windows. We just don't know. The colors of the roof, I don't know if there's some way, particularly for a house of this importance in Pinehurst, to actually see samples of those two proposed?
They can submit samples, but any sample that they submit would have to be within the color palette, so that could be handled at staff if you guys wanted to condition that.
Although again, Peter, I think we heard that they are leaning in the direction of shingles and.
That
the
are matching
application says-
existing, yeah.
Says metal.
Yeah, well, the application is asking for metal and red shingles, so they gave two options. That,
The materials list says metal and green.
Yeah.
not Shingles and red.
Right. So again, if we follow the list, we would end up with shingles, we'd end up with a metal roof that's green, dark green.
Right, and personally, I'm good with either one, but I think it is important that we know which one we're approving.
okay. They're asking for approval on both. That way they can make a decision, a field decision. That way they don't have to come back because they decided, we didn't want the green roof, we actually want the red shingles, or vice versa. So that way they don't have to come back before you guys for a sample change, or sorry, material change.
So this is a question for the members of the commission, each member of the commission, as to whether, given the uncertainty on some of these elements, whether if that were resolved one way, you would vote yay, and if it was resolved another way, you would vote no. So you need to think about that as to whether or not it's dispositive, or whether we're satisfied to say either way, so long as it's done one way or the other, it can be approved.
That's what, Eric, that's the windows that David was questioning? But what else is there, though? There's windows?
Windows, roof,
Well, the roofs we know, right? But windows, we
that
don't
we,
know the
that we
answers.
don't know.
The application actually says either or. Other than the materials list, which doesn't list either or. And I go back.
Just the windows, yeah.
It's not our responsibility to make sure it's done to what's in that package, but it's surely our responsibility to make sure that package is clear enough that the building inspector can take it out there and doesn't have to make field decisions about what should or should not be there.
I think it goes further as well. Take Munton as a case in point. Looking as best I can from the property line, it's hard to even see the windows, but there are a few places where you can. Those windows are very old. The Muntons, I'm guessing from 50 or 80 feet away, I would guess are in the neighborhood of an inch. There are some double glazed solutions in both of those series that would satisfy that. I don't think there are any that would even come close in the triple glazed solutions. So insofar as having a complete submission that is, for me, enough to satisfy that it's a good match, I would need to know that.
What I've pointed out on here or that you've raised other than what you've explained on. I thought there was a third thing that we were talking about, but I didn't catch that.
Submission was really well done. The drawings were excellent, crystal clear, just missing some detail.
And it's possible if the builder had been here, he might have been able to answer, but he's not here. So,
There was a way we can make a motion to allow these folks to proceed, and it could come back and get handled by Peter at staff level. That would be my recommendation, so they don't have to come back for window description back in front of us.
Is that a staff level decision?
I think if we can shape a motion in a way, David, if you want to take a stab at it, something that would satisfy, be very similar to what they have now. Granted, none of us can actually see it because there's so much shrubbery around the property. We're assuming they're not matching a window on the property existing that none of us can see. So I think if there's something that would satisfy us, we can condition that motion, allow Peter in the back room to make the call, let these folks move forward.
I'm inclined to go along. I think there's evidence to suggest whatever decision they make is likely to be congruous and from materials that would be approved if we knew exactly what they were.
Log material, same as roof color, as long as it works with the color samples that Peter can be the check and balance.
I think I could probably craft a motion that says use the narrowest Muntons available from Marvin. That would go some distance. It might rule out the window that they really want. I could do that. One other caution is they're thinning out the greenery on the site, which I think, by the way, is a fantastic thing for that house and for the community. Every tree that grows someday will fall. So contrary to the previous owner, that if it's growing, let it keep growing, hopefully not till it falls on the house. So, but my point is, it'll become more visible once they do the changes to the tree line that they're considering doing. So just because it's invisible now doesn't mean I don't care about it.
I would say what's atypical about this house and being on the corner lot is the setbacks. The footprint of the house is substantially different to, I would say, a lot of other village houses as far as proximity to the street. So even with clearing, you're going to have a good set of eyes to be able to see that. I'm not saying we would base our decision on not being able to see it so you can get away with any window, but if you can be creative in crafting a fair, accurate description of that window, we can put it on them. If it comes back and it's not the windows they elect, then they can choose to come back in front of us and we can talk more about windows.
Would it be putting too much burden on you to ask you to provide some language that Peter can include in the final order, indicating the specific areas in which there's uncertainty and that the staff may choose between option A, B, or C, but not complete carte blanche?
I think I can do it even more generally, so I can build it into a motion without making a list.
That's even better. Makes life easier for Peter.
Go for it.
I'm prepared to listen
Well, I
to the
think
motion.
then we have a volunteer to make the motion.
Maybe, do you need a minute?
Sure. No, I think I'll stumble along, if you bear with me. The project as proposed, oh, wait a minute, I have to read something here at first, don't I? Upon due consideration of the application package submitted and the testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the project is not in conformity with the guidelines. Nevertheless, the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion on the project subject to any conditions imposed by the commission is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District. The conditions would be:
Before you finish the conditions, how did it not meet the or how does it not conform to the guidelines?
how do I build into the motion that it would be congruous if these conditions were met?
I think that
Congress.
Yeah,
the way I would see it is, and other members of the commission may feel differently, that we should be approving something within a range, all of which we would feel was congruous. And I don't think we want to approve anything correct in the feelings of the commissioners.
Exactly. I would say that if the motion is that it is congruous, however, there's insufficient information based on the windows to satisfy, we're seeking more clarity on that side, and then
Yes, one of the conditions is provision of the additional, the details that we don't have at the moment.
I don't think I can call it congruous unless I have all of the information I need to make that clear that it is. I can't, it's like saying, yes, I agree, but no.
Well, are we saying, for example, take what I think is an easy example, the roof. Personally, I would find it congruous if the roof was red or if the roof was green. But I think we should know that it's one or the other, and that we want to specify that that has not been clarified in the record up until now. So if that's the example, then I don't think we need to say it's incongruous.
But David, is your suspicion on the windows that if it is the triple glazed version, that the muttons will be sufficiently wide as to be incongruous?
Mr. Herring, are you also testing it based on the entirety of the district, saying that the muttons, if they're 2 inches wide, wouldn't be congruous with, say, another 5 structures in the historic district? Are you saying it's incongruous with the structure itself?
I'm trying to respond to the street-facing windows must match the.
It's not a must, it's a should in the guidelines, so it's a recommendation. So the street-facing windows, the language is a should there. It's just your recommendation. Recommendations are kind of our guiding stick to help applicants, make a better application. The must are the ones that we hold them to where they have to do things. Like they must.
That
so-
I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Good condition. Be nice if they were tiny.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were,
And you bring up a good point, Peter.
Oh, okay. So then the motion is quite easy for me. On due consideration of the application package submitted and testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following. That the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion, the project is proposed, subject to any conditions imposed by the commission, is congruous with Pinehurst Historic District, consistent with Historic District guidelines, period.
But I think there's a conditionality that detail be provided to staff.
All right, so we'll add to that motion the following conditions.
and do you want the application updated as well to reflect corrections? So
Is that done as an addendum, or how is that done?
they're just going to take the application that they give me, mark through it, initial, and submit it back and date it. So that way it's part of the record, and then I give it to Kelly and she files it away.
Okay, so the first condition would be that they've already testified that the roof, if red, will match the existing, and that if metal, the green will match the approved green in the guidelines.
Correct.
They haven't specifically said that in their submission. I would make that a condition.
Okay.
Second is that the windows should match the existing. Is that a condition?
You could, but that's a conditional approval, so if they come back with me with aluminum clad, I can't approve their construction project now because they're not matching existing with that condition. So when you say match, do you mean match the dimensions of existing?
Well, I would repeat the language in the guidelines in its entirety, since we're stuck by the should provision.
Okay.
Put that in the condition as well.
So your condition with your
All those
motion is
details.
that the windows are wood?
No.
No?
Restate that condition again.
You're
Because
interested
now
that
I've got too many
you
things going in
want
my
them
mind,
to-
I don't
to
know what you
look
said.
like the existing windows.
Okay,
And whether they're wood or aluminum is not material.
Irrelevant.
okay.
Match the existing.
Dimensions of existing, okay.
Dimensions, details. Yes. Can we exclude from the condition the configuration of the various Muntin patterns, which I think are quite nice as proposed?
Yes, you can have that reflect in the record that the mutton patterns can be approved as proposed.
Pattern, not dimension.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Is that good enough?
We're good. I can go out there and now know what I'm approving and inspecting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion of the motion that has now been made and seconded? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. Appreciate your being here. Tell your friends that they have their certificate of appropriateness.
Builder has a little work to do.
Yes, that's right. Oh, well.
Sorry, Peter.
He's just
Right.
getting started anyway. He's got a lot of work to do.
My packet is in the right order. The next case we have is a certificate of appropriateness 00099. Peter, let's see, who's the witness going to be in this case?
Ms. Stoddard?
Okay. Ms. Stoddard, would you stand at the table and raise your right hand? Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much.
Peter, are we switching mics or we don't care?
I failed there, I'm not gonna lie. I should have wiped it down before she sat down. She can just switch to the other table if she'd like, or she can stay seated.
It was too small to escape the notice of the Historic Preservation Commission. Until it does.
And you've kept me honest, Mr. Taylor.
All right, Peter, having completed your janitorial duties, would you like to present the case?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District for a modification to a previously approved certificate of appropriateness at 41 Shaw Road, but it was approved as 60 Blue Road. The property can be further identified in Moore County Tax Registry by Moore County PIN number 855-212-756-729. The property owners are Jennifer Stoddard and Kevin Drum, and the applicant is Jennifer Stoddard. This is a picture of the front elevation of the home. They recently completed a project in 2020. They got approval in 2017 for the addition of a period appropriate portico. That's what we saw right here at the front entry. They also got an approval in 2018 for the demolition of a detached garage. And then again in 2018, they got approval for a front porch, new guest cottage, new 3-car garage, new in-ground pool, and the reconfiguration of driveway and walkway. We are hearing the case for the 2018 COA that approved the addition of the guest cottage. 40 Shaw Road has also received 2 additional minor COAs for repainting the exterior of the structure and removal of trees along the street frontage, and they submitted a second one for some minor revisions to a previously approved COA today. The adjacent properties, some are contributing, some are not. 41 Shaw is a contributing structure. It was constructed in 1917. This was the notification area. 9 properties were notified in the notification. This request is before the commission because modifications were made to a previously approved COA that would be considered major work. The modifications resulted in change to the window and door arrangement of the rear elevation of the guest house, and according to the historic district guidelines, the addition or removal of windows or doors is considered major work. The original approval for the guest cottage was granted in 2018. The applicants received an additional staff approval in 2019 to reduce the size of the guest cottage from 41.4 inches to 33 feet 6 inches in width. As a result of that change, the fenestration of the building also changed. However, the second change to the fenestration was not communicated to staff, and that was discovered at inspection, and staff communicated that that was never, staff was never informed of that change. This was the approved April 2020 by staff elevation, and this is what was constructed. This is a photo taken by the applicant. This is another photo taken from a different angle by the applicant. And then this is the fenestration of the front of the building. And so the reason why the fenestration changed on the cottage was because the applicants felt that by having such large fenestration on the cottage was taking away attention from that main entrance. And they've already struggled years prior with this house being an odd orientation of identifying the front entrance. So they didn't want to further confuse people. And then this was what was approved in 2019 again. And then here we see what staff took a picture of, which is from the street. So you can't even really see the addition from the street. I bring that up is not because I want to dismiss the importance of this change, but because you're not going to see the changes that they made. What you can see is two street doors. This is a staff photo taken at the time of the inspection of the rear elevation, shown in color. And then at this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record: staff report, presentation, application, applicant's material, photos, site plans, and findings of fact. Staff is also recommending approval in this case.
Thank you. Those items will be received into the record. Ms. Stoddard, would you like to address the commission to your application?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes,
Did we swear her in yet? Yeah, we need to swear her into the record.
yeah.
We
I
did?
didn't I?
Okay, my apologies.
swear I'm sworn. Yes, this was a big project, and we're just now in the final gasps of it. Not completely finished yet, but that guest cottage is finished. And then we discovered that this last little change of having basically to move, as you can see, the fenestrations on that rear elevation never came before you prior to construction. As a matter of fact, it was constructed the other way first, and then we deconstructed it, and then reconstructed it. So if you can feel the pain I am trying to express, I hope that you will have some empathy for that situation. But here I am, asking for your approval in retrospect and with my apologies.
Peter, if I understand it, what we're doing is approving what they've already done.
Correct. So,
There are no further changes at the moment to what has been done so far.
correct. The construction's complete on the cottage. They went from 4 doors to 3 doors. They went from 2 windows to no windows. Or sorry, 1 window to no windows and 4 doors to 3 doors.
All right, do members of the commission have any questions for Ms. Stoddard?
It's pretty clear where we stand.
I'll express the personal opinion that it may have taken you a while, but you came up with a better design in the end. I think it looks real good, and I understand your point about the entrance confusion, but even aside from that, just aesthetically, I like it better.
Thank you.
That doesn't count for anything, but I just thought I'd let you know.
Makes me feel good.
I thought there was going to be an unfortunately coming.
No, I'm not springing anything.
So what they've done is in compliance, had they presented it this way in the first place.
It would have been for you to determine whether or not it's congruent, but it would be consistent with the guidelines.
Well, I have a question.
Wait.
Or no?
We haven't had a discussion,
better.
and I have to ask if there's anybody in the room who wants to testify in this matter. Nobody does, okay. Therefore, the record is closed. We can now have a discussion by the members of the commission.
I just have a question of Peter. Does this happen often? I'm just curious.
Since I've been here, it's happened a few times where a field decision happens and it's just not communicated, and it's relatively minor. You're talking about a rear fenestration change. It's happened, I believe, 4 times in the last year, and you'll be seeing this come up a lot. You'll have another one tonight and potentially another one in the future.
Well, no, I agree, it looks better and all that, but I'm just curious how often it happens, and, I mean, it's significant enough that it has to come back to us, so,
The way the guidelines are written right now, staff does not have the flexibility to issue a minor COA or have the flexibility to
because this
work
would
with
be
the
a major
applicant.
change.
Yeah, so the current verbiage is elimination or addition of a doorway or window. It doesn't say on the front facade, it doesn't say on the side, it just says those words, and it's black and white, they have to come back.
And just curious, I mean, and not that it's going to be applicable here, but just generally, are there any consequences ever for these?
There could be.
Well, I mean, we could say you're going to dismantle what you did and
In the-
deconstruct your deconstruction, or what, I mean.
In the hypothetical, they're not zoning compliant until they meet your guys' approval. And if they were to not get your approval and not make any action, a zoning offense is $500 a day.
Then one note, I did have to pay another $500
Yeah,
fee.
that too. She did have to pay $500 to reappear.
That was, a punishment of sorts.
And penalties are not
Yeah.
HVC's.
I'm sorry?
It's,
Penalties are not our issue.
Nor
No, no, I was just
Nor
curious,
fees.
I was
Fees.
just, I was asking Peter that question.
yeah, there's a process. We would issue a letter stating that you need to come into compliance. They would have 45 days. On the 46th day, we would start, not being nice anymore.
I mean, there have been instances, not in Pinehurst to the best of my knowledge, but in other municipalities where something is built and not in accordance with the approved plans and in violation of zoning, and completed structures have been required to be removed completely. That has happened.
But that's outside the scope of this.
But that's not what we're dealing with. But it does indicate that we take our guidelines seriously. Staff takes it seriously, and if they see a significant deviation, it has to come back to us for approval.
It should be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, it's not meaning any criticism of the homeowners or the builders. It's just when you see something in
Has to be
its
correct.
completed form, it may just not look right. And
Either
it's
the
your-
paper
It's your
or
home,
the
you want
place
it
has
to be
to be
right.
corrected.
So,
Well, I'm asking what I'm just curious. I'm new, so I'm just asking.
are we ready to entertain a motion?
I am happy to make a motion with one question to Peter.
Yes.
Our language says the project as proposed. This is really a project that is,
Yeah, so technically it's still proposed because they're still requesting permission. But yes, I can see the confusion there.
Proposed, I think, is a good kick.
upon due consideration of the application package submitted and the testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion, and that the project as proposed, subject to any conditions, of which I believe there are none, imposed by the commission, is congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District and consistent with the Historic District guidelines.
Second? Yes, yes.
Is there a way to put something in the record, essentially making it known that this is being reviewed in a built condition, since we're saying it's proposed? But I guess there ought to be some way to say in the record, this ain't the way to do it. But in this case,
It's, that's.
It's in the
that's not-
application, yeah.
My personal opinion is that's outside the scope of this organization and what the statute allows us to do. There's only one real thing that this organization, I read the controlling statute, is to ensure that what's there, whether it's previously built, as built, or otherwise, is congruent with the historical district. Beyond the scope of that, I think we exceed the statutory allowance of what we are here to do.
But the
That's my
fact is
personal
that the record of the proceedings will show
Right.
that this is something that was brought to us as a result of staff's inspection after the work had been completed. We
Clearly in the
considered it
record.
on that
Ms.
basis.
Stoddard even said in her testimony that she
It was a
constructed it the one way,
contrite
deconstructed and then reconstructed it,
Ex post
implying that it's
facto.
built.
It's
Any-
ex post
any-
But the word
facto.
proposed in the motion really is incorrect, right? So, I mean, maybe if we use a different word, then that would address
It's
it.
proposed, as what's proposed, it
Well,
happens
it's
to
not
be
proposed,
exist-
it's constructed, right?
Proposed is,
They're proposing
Proposed to
our-
us in the
proposing-
application.
Slash
They're
constructed.
asking they're proposing in the sense they're asking our approval, even though it's after
Yes.
the fact, so.
our question is, and only question is, does it meet the historical guidelines? Is it
Now, we have a
congruent?
motion, we have a second.
And a
Is there
second.
further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Stoddard. You have your certificate of appropriateness.
Congratulations.
You're very welcome.
I will just let other members of the commission know, as I
Good,
informed
thanks.
Eric, I'm going to have to leave at 5:15. I think we'll probably be able to get one more done, and then I will leave after that. But if something untoward comes up at 5:15, I have to leave. Still be a quorum without me, yes.
This is, the next case is also one in which something was changed after construction, I believe. Am I correct on that?
I don't think so. I think the changes are,
Okay, all right.
Find out
Okay.
what it is here
We'll
shortly.
find out, yeah, that's right. All right, the next case is Certificate of Appropriateness 101 involving 30 Dundee Road. And is the applicant present? Oh, there you are. And you must be Ms. Ellett?
It's actually Elo, E-L-O.
E-L-L?
E-L-O, no T at the end.
Okay, very good. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear, or do you affirm that the testimony you should give to the commission in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Peter, would you like to present the case?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District for the modification to a previously approved COA for a detached garage at 310 Dundee Road. The property can be further identified in Moore County Tax Registry by Moore County PIN number 856-200-298-252. The property owners are Margaret Elo and Peter Genthner, and the applicant is also Mrs. Elo. This is a photo of 310 Dundee from the front. I heard that some of you had some difficulty seeing the front of the home from your windshield tour, so I went out there and snapped a photo so that way we could all look at it together. In 2019, 310 Dundee was granted a major COA for a detached garage. No minor COAs have been issued for 310 Dundee. The 2019 approval is what we're re-reviewing. According to the National Historic Landmark, it is not a contributing structure, and none of the adjacent properties are contributing structures. In total, there was 6 properties notified. As you can see, there is a parcel there that has 2 addresses. Both properties were identified. I just want that to clear for the record. This request is before the commission because the proposed modification to a previously approved COA have been determined to be major work. According to the Historic District guidelines, the addition or elimination of windows or doors and replacement of architectural details that change the design or materials from the existing detail are considered major work. The applicants are requesting to add 3 windows and a door to the rear elevation, add a window to the front elevation, remove 1 window from the left elevation, modify the size of the windows on the right elevation, and change the siding of the gable from shake to Dutch lap. This was the previously approved site plan, so just remember we're not approving the location or the building, we're just approving those modifications. They already have approval, they could build what was previously approved today. This is the modified driveway entrance. They decided to modify the driveway entrance. They did this through a driveway permit to reduce the number of trees being removed. It was less than the previously designed driveway, so staff was able to approve that. Here's the rear elevation showing those 3 different windows. In the bottom right, you see a picture from the front of the home. As you can see, the windows are there to match what's on the existing home, so it's being congruous with, or not congruous, consistent with the architecture of the primary structure. And then they're also proposing a Dutch door, which is also consistent with the construction of the home. On the front elevation, which would be the street elevation, you are swapping out doors for a window there. And then the gable, which they didn't draw in, but they have a note here on the left saying Dutch lap siding, and then I added an additional note for Dutch lap siding. So that way you guys could see that the gable of the garage was going to be going to lap siding to match the rest of the home, or the rest of the garage, I apologize. On the left elevation, they're reducing the number of windows from 2 to 1. And then on the right elevation, they're changing the sizing of the windows as well. The materials that are selected are all compliant with the guidelines. And with that, staff is submitting the staff report, presentation, application, applicant's material, photos, site plans, and finding facts in the record, and staff is recommending approval for this project.
One minor question, Peter. When you say front elevation, that's relative to Dundee Road. Front is facing Dundee,
So-
not McFarland if you drive around the back.
So we're saying front is not Dundee in this one. We're saying front elevation is what's seen from the street on this one. So the front elevation, this would be facing towards, I believe,
McFarland.
McFarland.
Actually, if I could speak at this moment, the whole purpose behind the changes that are being requested is because the front elevation faces McFarland. And what we see from our house is the rear elevation. And as the drawings were originally done, there were no windows on that elevation. In addition, the door was shown on the front elevation rather than the rear elevation. And as that's going to be the primary means of ingress and egress from our house to the garage, we wanted it to be facing the house. So we wanted a more visually interesting appearance from our home, and we decided to add those 3 windows, and then wanted also the Dutch door there to be the primary means of ingress and egress.
Thank you. Did you have anything further, Peter? Did you have anything further that you wanted to add?
I do not. He's covered everything pretty well.
Thank you. Questions from the members of the commission?
Questions? I'm getting to be the window man tonight. So. On your new rear elevation, which faces your house,
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for checking.
those windows have multiple lights in the top sash.
Correct.
Very nice, goes real well with the house, obviously.
Yeah.
The others, some of which are much more visible to the public, much less interesting. In your
But the-
sketches, for example, if I go to
That
the,
should be, that is a 6/1. It's,
for all the windows?
yeah. Well, not the ones that are on the, sorry, that should be, this side are not,
Right side. Where does it-
the right elevation.
Relative to the site. So that would be, if I'm standing in McFarland, that's the right side.
Right side. Mhm.
Any reason that,
Those are smaller windows,
just because they're small?
and it would be, the pane size would be too tiny to do.
Okay. For Peter, one correction to the record, they are not, in fact, wood windows, they are fiberglass windows. Not that apparently it matters.
Okay.
Garage doors. Original design has a style of door that I think is quite congruous with the rest of the property, the house and so forth. Based on this, the scant information we have, it's going to something more, quote, colonial, bunch of squares.
I haven't made any changes to the,
A little red mark that says it's changing the design of the door from what we see in the elevation to, it's too small for me to read.
the only thing that has changed, if you go to the rear elevation, sorry, the door that was originally shown on the front elevation was a regular door. Open the door. This is, I discussed at the last meeting that I intended to install a Dutch door. However, Peter pointed out that that was not included in the actual application. So I wanted to clarify, this is a Dutch door, not a single door. So it opens top and bottom.
Okay, that's not what I'm getting
Oh,
at.
okay, then I don't know what you're talking about.
Garage doors.
Oh, okay.
So on what's labeled front elevation, where the garage doors are.
Yes.
I presume facing. Somewhere I saw that the design of those garage doors is changing. Is that not so?
No, in meeting with our contractor, who is here, Russ, we discussed a number of options, and and he told me to check out various websites. I did, and I enumerated 3 possible options that, in my mind, came close to matching what was shown in the drawing.
Perfect. So for all intents and purposes, it's what's on the drawing.
Yes, I mean, they might be slightly different, but
Close enough.
we're going to get them as close as possible.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions from members of the commission? Okay. In that case, thank you very much, and the commission will now discuss the application. Oh, yes, that's right. Is there anyone else here who wants to be heard on this case? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Thank you for the reminder, Tom. All right, discussion. All right. Does anyone want to make a motion? Richard?
Upon due consideration of the application package submitted and the testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion, and the project as proposed, subject to no conditions imposed by the commission, is congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District and consistent with historic district guidelines.
There a second? Second from Ann. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nays, it passes unanimously.
Thank you very
You have
much.
your certificate of appropriateness. Thank you. No, thanks. Thank you, no. And yes, I'm sure, no, I don't. All right, are we ready to proceed? Let the record show that we have lost Mr. Taylor, but we still have a quorum, and so we will proceed. The next case is Certificate of Appropriateness 102. The applicants are Corey and Carice Rice. Ms. Rice, are you here? Yep. Both here? Why don't you can both come up to this. Okay. And the winner gets to talk, or the loser?
You guys can sit together if you want.
You just have to grab that microphone when you're coming.
All right, Peter, would you like to, let me.
Yes, swear.
The witnesses before I forget. You please both raise your respective right hands. Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Is there anyone else who's going to want to be heard on this case? You can come forward and be sworn.
Just in case, we don't necessarily need to sit up here, but we'll get sworn in case you have technical questions.
All right, will you each state your names for the record?
Mark Parson.
Mark? Okay. And will you raise your right hands, please? Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, please be seated. All right, Peter, can you present the case?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District for multiple exterior modifications at 105 Azalea Road. Modifications include the following: garage and breezeway addition, side entrance expansion, new pool and pavilion, demolition of an existing pool, reconfiguration of a patio, replacement of existing windows, and reconfiguration of a driveway. The property can be further identified in Moore County Tax Registry by Moore County PIN number 855-212-856-749. The property owners are Corey and Carice Rice, and the applicant is Corey and Carice Rice. This is a photo of the front of the home of 105 Azalea Road. It is a stucco of construction. No previous major COAs have been issued for 105 Azalea. In 2017, they did receive a minor COA for shadow box fence. According to the National Historic Landmark Survey, it is a contributing structure, and it was constructed in 1915. It is affectionately called the Green Dial structure, and some of the structures located around it are considered historic and some are not. In total, there were 6 properties notified for this project, including Pinehurst Country Club. The request is before the commission because in addition to a structure, installation of an in-ground swimming pool and construction of accessory structure are considered major work items according to the Village of Pinehurst. The applicant's entire request includes the addition of a garage and breezeway, expanding the side entrance, demolition of an old pool and installation of a new pool, construction of a pavilion, reconfiguration of existing patio, replacement of existing windows with different material, and reconfiguration of a driveway. The proposed new construction will meet all zoning requirements such as setbacks, height, and impervious coverage, and will feature compliant building material. This was the submitted site plan. It doesn't show the full site plan. I wanted to make sure that we could also see what we are. As you can see, the proposed garage will be within the setback line, and just south of it is the proposed pavilion adjacent to the proposed new pool. This is all happening in the side yard. Side yard additions are compliant with the historic district, and accessory structures located in the rear yard are compliant with the historic district guidelines as well. This is their landscaping plan. It's going to be very compliant, if not over compliant. As you can see, the modification to the garage driveway, the reconfiguration is minor. Really, they're just orientating the driveway so that they can pull into their new garage, if approved. These were photos taken by staff yesterday. This is on the left, we have the photo of where the garage will go, and on the right, we have a photo of where the pavilion will go in the rear and side yards. And this was a picture from the rear of the house I found from Zillow, just to kind of show you where the pavilion might go in a different aspect for you guys in your consideration. It's not the exact location of where the pool will be, but it will give you a different perspective of where the pavilion and how the reconfiguration might play in. The submitted elevations, these are the elevations that will be visible from the street. They made sure to orientate the garage doors away from the street, which is consistent and compliant with the historic district guidelines. This is the rear elevation, so to speak, the elevation showing the garage door and the breezeway. Once again, this will not be visible from the street. And then here's the whole entire rear elevation submitted to see and show how this addition will be consistent with the existing architecture. The request is asking for the replacement of all the windows with aluminum clad. That was unclear in the staff report, but later emails between the applicants, professionals indicated that all the windows will be replaced with aluminum clad. This is the elevation of the pavilion. It is going to be a very nice brick pavilion. Brick pavilions are consistent with other structures in the historic district. Once again, this is the floor plan illustrating where everything's going to go, and just another look at the reconfiguration of the patio and how that's going to play into the flow of the entire lot. They also have a garden space to the right. It's not within the setback, or sorry, it is within the setback, but that doesn't matter because it's an accessory structure that's allowed to be. Here's the building material list that was submitted by the applicant. And these were the updated material samples. The original application didn't. I reached out to them to provide additional. These are the roofing shingles that they're going to use for the new addition, the window color and the aluminum clad window sample, the brick pavilion sample, and then their inspiration for the windows came from the windows from the, I believe, Holly Inn. At this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record: staff report, presentation, application, applicant's material, photos, site plans, and findings of fact, and staff is also recommending approval for this application.
Thank you, Peter. That material will be made part of the record. Mr. Rice, Ms. Rice, who's going to, or you can do it in unison if you prefer, whatever.
Yeah,
you'd
we
like
might
to.
just tag team it. So Karis and I both attended high school here. We were fortunate enough to move back to the area, have lived here for 20 years. We're over near the marina for a while and fortunate enough to get a good property.
Mr. Rice, can you move the mic a little closer to you? We're having a hard time picking you up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
That might be too loud. So we've lived in this house, I think, about 7 years. Beautiful house. It's had some kind of unfortunate updates, I think, probably in the 60s and 70s. And so our goal with this property is to bring it back kind of in the original characteristic that we think the house, some of the features that we love about the house were the original ones, and some of the remodeling that was done, we kind of want to roll that back to some of the original ones.
For example, I think they used a lot of metal siding to go over some of the wood for the pillars in front of the house. I think the soffits are now metal, and so we want to get rid of what was added, which was, I would say, was incongruous with not in keeping at all with the village. And like my husband was saying, just bring it back to what it should have been. And it looks like the remodels that were done over the years weren't done very well. I mean, on the interior, which you all aren't considering, I mean, we have a lot of pink tile removal. So taking stuff like that, improving the appearance, but not trying to change it too drastically. With respect to the windows, I think currently they're pretty ugly storm windows on it, so that would be removed. So we think the changes to the windows would really improve the appearance. As you can see, you can't really even see the original windows anymore. So.
All right. Anything more you'd like to add?
Probably, but you guys can start
Yeah,
asking your questions,
questions.
and we'll fill in wherever you need.
Do you have anything to add, Ms. Chicobue?
I'm here for technical assistance if needed.
Okay,
So
all
I'll
right.
address anything if it comes.
Thank you. All right, questions from the members of the commission?
I've got a question for us.
Real quick, did you ask if anybody in attendance had anything to say? If anybody was going to testify beyond? Okay, I just want to make sure.
We're not having discussion now, we're having questions for the,
Okay.
A question is, there's a demolition, and then there's a whole bunch of changes. Does that have to be two motions or one?
what are we demolishing?
They're demolishing a pool. Pools do not fall under that guideline.
Okay. That
So,
answers my question.
yeah.
I have a couple of
Demolish a
questions.
hole. Technical question.
Fill it in
All right.
this.
Well, the,
Questions of, the-
maybe Dave will go into windows, but are they all going to be replaced with the same size?
Yeah.
I think that wasn't clear from the application. The existing landscaping and fencing, is that all to remain?
Existing landscaping in the front should look similar, but in the back, it's going to change significantly. It's, you want to take that one? I mean, there are significant updates and improvements on the landscaping in the rear and on the side.
I kind of like what Peter said. He said it's over compliant with the landscaping. So yes, we did make some changes to the front. We did 2 layers of shrubbery around the front, and it's pretty significant, actually.
But all that, I think there's fencing all around, or at least you see from the front, there's,
Just in the rear, like the front of the side yard and the back is
that
complete.
fencing will remain that you see on the left.
Part of it will remain. The the fencing that's back in the shrubbery will remain, but where it ties into the pavilion, that'll be brick. So that, you won't see any wood fencing from the street.
You will not now? Okay. Because you do
Actually,
now,
really
but you
won't
won't
see-
after, okay.
You won't really see anything from the street. It's pretty.
Way in the back, you can't,
Yeah.
just as a matter of clarification, when you say from the street, this is,
From-
house is on a corner.
Yeah, from both sides.
So both Ritter and Azalea, when you
Won't see
say
any
from the
wood
street?
fe-
Okay.
Any wood fencing, no.
Other questions?
You? Guess what I'm going to ask about? No, you've done a great job. Can you tell me a little bit about the windows you're proposing, or what material are they? or-
Yeah, I think the windows we envision are the windows from the Holly Inn or the Magnolia.
Are they painted wood, or are they aluminum clad, or are they
We'd like to go with aluminum clad.
aluminum clad for the sake of the record? And the Muntin pattern is going to match what's there? Or, said a better way, is it as
Actually,
shown?
Yeah, the Holly Inn style right there.
And I believe it's also the style of the Magnolia Inn, so it would match the Magnolia Inn as well. That was another inspiration we had for changing the windows.
I see on your elevation you show a Muntin pattern. Is it going to be according to your elevation?
That,
Going to change. So again, it would be it's very traditional 4 kind of that you can see in the Magnolia and the Holly Inn.
2/2, generally. All right. And you say they're black to match the existing, which, hard to see, but they're black also?
They are,
They're behind storm.
I'm not sure what they originally were. They're pretty damaged at this point. They may have been stained, but, and what is it?
Look
Are they
white to me.
white on that? What
Yeah,
are
that's the
they?
storm window you see.
Yeah, the storm windows are white.
The goal is black?
Yes.
Okay. No trees being removed?
there's one.
Oh,
One holly.
The holly, yeah, that's true, near the current patio.
If you look at the photograph on the left, there's a holly tree to the right of that
Right
larger
there.
window. Yes. And that's within 10 feet of the house and with,
Actually, it's messing with the foundation right now. It's less than a foot.
All trees fall. Roof pitch. The main roof is noted to be 12 and 12. I can't find anywhere it says what the pitch on the garage is.
You don't have the full construction details, I don't believe, so documents, but it's, it's 12-12.
Okay, the reason I ask is the guidelines call for it to be less than the main house.
No, that's the height of the structure, less than the main house, not the pitch.
That is correct.
right?
He's correct. It's the height of the structure, not the
To say
pitch.
about pitch.
In fact, we got rid of that in the last update in the guidelines.
The pitch is not mentioned. It says it should be congruous with the structure, and if you match the pitch, you're congruous,
Sure.
100%.
Okay. That's all I have.
I think I just heard testimony that the windows are not going to be as shown in these plans. Is that correct in terms of, you said 2/2? Don't want to get you into a situation where when you have completed your construction and Peter comes out to inspect it, he tells you that you built something that's not in accordance with what we have approved. So therefore, I think we need to have you modify your application.
Or you guys can condition it that they submit revised elevations showing the 2/2 construction.
That's the easiest way to do it, isn't it?
That's the way I would do it.
Then that's the way we're going to do it. Do you understand that? Okay. You understand why?
Yes.
Because you've probably been here and you've seen people have to come before us because they
No, that
built
makes
something a little
sense.
bit differently than they had originally planned. All right. So if someone wants to make a motion, they can include that in the motion, if we're ready. Do we have further discussion?
Well, I have a question. I see in the package things such as, I believe, probably are solar panels, et cetera.
That's a wrong case. That's the next case.
Sorry.
You're looking, there's a lot of 105s on this agenda. There's a 105 Graham, 105 Azalea, and then case number 105.
All right, do we have any further questions of the applicants? No, all right. Is there anyone here who wants to testify in this case who has not done so far? No. Therefore, we are prepared for discussion among the members of the commission. Discussion. Beyond what we've already resolved, dealing with the windows.
We have a small discussion.
Yes. Yes, yes, please.
It says 4E2, accessory buildings must be equal or lower in height than primary structure, and the roof shall have equal or lower slope than the primary structure.
No, it's connected to the house.
It's connected to the house.
By the breezeway, is that it?
Yeah, that's why it's considered an addition, not an accessory structure. The pavilion's different, for sure, and it has a lower slope.
Okay. All right, resolve that.
Good question, though.
Any other discussion, or are we ready for a motion? Who hasn't made a motion yet today?
I have. Okay, upon due consideration of the application package submitted and the testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion, and the project as proposed is congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District and consistent with Historic District guidelines.
And we're going to condition that.
Did we have a condition?
Yeah.
No, subject to a condition.
Submitting a modification of the window designs.
Okay.
Your motion, you gotta say it.
Sorry? Do I need to remove?
No, you just have to add the condition that says
Okay,
they'll
with the
submit revised
condition that
elevations.
the application, I guess it's the application be updated to disclose the window. Correct window. It's 2/2, is that what?
That's,
Okay.
all right, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. No nays. Thank you. You have your certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you.
Does anybody need to take a break?
Let's take just 5.
Yeah.
And for you and David.
Case is certificate of appropriateness 105 involving 105 Graham Road. Is there a witness?
Mr. Decker is here.
Some of you look familiar, I believe, from.
Before you
last
sit
year.
down, would you raise your
Oh,
right
that's
hand,
right.
Mr. Decker? Do you affirm that the testimony you shall give to the commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Peter, would you like to, oh, is there anyone else here who wants to be heard on this case? I'll give you a chance to get sworn in now. Hearing none. Okay, Peter, please proceed. Is that the case?
The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District for an exterior modification at 105 Graham Road. The proposed modification is the addition of solar panels on the rear roof. The property can be further identified in the Moore County Tax Registry by Moore County PIN number 855-200-883244. The property owner is Mr. Decker, and the applicant is Mr. Decker. I apologize, Mr. Decker, but currently his home is under construction, so this is the most flattering structure, or picture of his structure, but on one day it will be quite beautiful. In 2019, a major COA was granted for the construction of a new single-family home in March of 2019. 105 Graham has also been granted 2 minor COAs, the first for the modification of a driveway layout in 2019, and the second was the minor architectural changes to a previously approved major COA and addition of a driveway columns. The primary structure at 105 Graham is under construction and will not be considered contributing construction when it is complete, and none of the adjacent properties are considered contributing structures either. In total, there was 8 properties notified, including the Village of Pinehurst with the Arboretum to the right. According to the Historic District guidelines, a minor COA can be issued for an addition of solar panels if the solar panels are not visible from the street. This requested before the commission because the subject property fronts 2 streets and a portion of the rear roof line is visible from the street. Because a portion of the rear roof line is visible from the street and the solar panels were proposed to be located on the rear roof line, staff was unable to issue a minor COA. The applicant is proposing to add multiple solar panels to the rear roof line of 105 Graham. A solar plan layout has been submitted to illustrate where the solar panels will be and satisfy the site plan requirement. A landscape plan has also been submitted to illustrate the intent to add plantings along McCaskill in order to screen the solar panels from public view. This is the submitted site plan, or a section of it. I thought the one that best illustrated the angle that we're talking about today as far as the rear roof line solar panels potentially being visible from the street. This was a photo taken by staff showing from across the street the visibility that's currently there. That driveway access point is a construction driveway. It's not going to be a driveway in the future. This was the landscape plan, as you can see in what would be, I guess, the southwest corner of the lot. The additional plantings are going to be planted here. These are trees that will add additional screening to the solar panels. The applicant has provided additional information with solar panels in the historic district to satisfy the burden of proof that he is congruous with other homes. This is a solar panel that is visible from Shaw and Fry Road. This is an additional solar panel that is visible from the street that was submitted by the applicant. And then, sorry, this is another one from an aerial showing that on the corner of Shaw Road and Beulah Hill inside the historic district, a home with solar panels. This is the building material. As you can see, it's left blank except for the solar panels, which are Rec Alpha black panels. The applicant intentionally chose black panels because he thought it would better match the existing shingle roof and blend more within the current environment. This was the building materials supply. Once again, digital samples were provided because of COVID. And at this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record: staff report, presentation, application, applicant's material, photos, site plans, findings of fact. And with that, staff concludes their presentation. He's happy to answer any questions, but we're also recommending approval of this case as well.
Thank you. That material will become part of the record.
Can I ask a question of Peter? Or?
Yes, you may.
Going to the photos that are supposed to be bearing the burden, are they all the same?
No, there's 2 separate properties. So this is Shaw and Fry Road, and then this one wasn't labeled, but it is different from the Shaw Road one.
It's the same structure?
I don't believe it's the same. I think the applicant can speak better to this
Oh,
question.
okay, sorry.
But as you can see, this one, it looks like they might be a front-facing solar panel. But those were submitted by the applicant, not
Oh,
by me.
okay, because I never saw where I didn't see them identified.
I just used Google Earth and located panels and drove around, and if I could see them, I took a picture.
Well, Mr.
You
Decker?
can't tell me, well, you haven't presented your case yet, but I would just
Oh, I'm sorry.
like to know where they were, that's all.
Now your turn to be be heard. So please go ahead and have your say.
Well, fortunately, I don't have any windows, so, to do it there, so.
Would you put the microphone a little bit closer to your?
Sure, yes. So I had the solar company order a special panel so it would match the black shingle. I got the blackest shingle I could get and kept that in mind when they were ordering these. So it is the closest matching that I could get. The trees that are going to be put up are going to be 12 to 15 feet in height as they're going to be planted. I've also, I actually, I didn't even know they were going to put that access road in. Some of the other trees along the back of the house, when you see the 4 that are separated, they are going to be at an angle. They're going to run tangent with a circular diameter of the tree because that's the angle you see them at. You're not looking at them straight on. That's why there's only 4 in the back versus the 8 to 10 that will be along McCaskill. And where you see the property line with the 4 that are separated, behind that is the cured-in-place sewer line that they replaced. So behind that, I have to stay about 10 feet away from that. And the reason I did take out some trees there, because Moore County wanted to have some access to that. And my neighbor has a fence right there. So rather than them lose their fence, if there's an issue, at my own expense, I took out some of the trees that could have damaged the sewer line. This is a preliminary plan. I believe we've worked with the landscape enough to get this to block based on the height, based on the distance when you drive by or walk by. At 12 to 15 feet, see there, if it more than covers at this angle right here. Other than that, there's not a lot to say. It's pretty straightforward. It is a giant green type of pine tree. Another thing I'm going to do, I have about a dozen what I'd consider saplings of pine trees, longleaf, the pine. I'm going to replant those at different positions. So I asked them not to disturb those until landscaping happens. We will replant those accordingly. I'm going to try to regreen everything as much as possible and just sort of be tucked away in there and become invisible as much as possible and to have the panel shielded. I believe that's about it. There's not a lot to it, really.
Well, I guess my concern, I mean, is it shiny? Is the material shiny
More
or
of a
is it
matte.
flat?
It's a matte, black like that. These are not your traditional type of solar panels from even 5 years ago. These were just released about a year and a half ago, this type of panel. And I'm paying a premium to get these to match.
And how far off the roof do they?
They will not exceed the 6 inches that are allowed. In fact, these will only be, I don't know if you have that page.
I didn't include it just because the specifications wouldn't have shown up on the PowerPoint, but in your packets, he has a specification page that tells you how it's going to be mounted and the separation between it and the roof.
It's well below the 6 inches. They've made these things. These things are only about an inch thick. So they don't need to have that much room below them. Just a slight bit of air that comes through, and that's about it.
I guess my concern is, I mean, you've got basically 3 roof lines, right, back there that you're covering, roof sections.
Yeah, the one is going to be a bit obscured. If you see the first.
Yeah, that one we don't even see from the road. The other 2, that one in the middle, not so much, but the one on the garage, which, that is,
That's the whole reason I'm putting in
yeah.
12 to 15-foot trees, and if you know the cost of putting in a tree that high, they took down.
It would be nice if we could see what the 2 look like and then go with the 3rd. I don't even know if that's a possibility.
She's saying if you could just do the far roof line and the middle roof line section. But
Well, the whole idea is to not use any fossil fuels in this entire house. This is going to be not off the grid, but a zero, basically no utility bills whatsoever, based on the usage of the house and this. And in order to do that, I need that amount. The trees grow, if it helps you any, between 3 and 5 feet a year. Yeah, yeah. So within a year, you know, it's going to camouflage this. I mean, unless, you know, somebody rides by and maybe a vehicle that's sitting extremely high, even then, I don't know that, you know, that's going to be an issue. Where at 15 feet, it covers it. I've been out there with the tape measure. I've been out there with the landscape team. It's been an arduous process, I can tell you that. I want to follow the guidelines of, you know, it should be camouflaged, it should be screened, and I think we've done a good job at providing that. The landscaper is very sure that that's going to satisfy everything. I am certain this is going to work. I've worked on this tirelessly.
No, I appreciate that, but I'm just looking at the congruity standard that we have. I was just, can we go back to the photos, and if you could tell us where those are?
she's just talking about where you took your
The photos?
photos, so she can certify that they're in the historic district.
Well, that they're in the district and that, yeah, where they are. I mean,
So you have one here.
photos, I knew one you
on-
said Sean Fry, but I don't know where the other two are.
Yeah, well,
Jake-
actually, if that, I don't want to out people. I'm not trying to do,
You're not,
Public record and public knowledge, right?
that's right. I mean, this is,
Yeah.
you're not outing anybody by saying it, because if it hasn't, if they've already got their CO, they're,
yeah, I'm pretty sure these are older panels based on just my observation. And actually, this is not the only photo. This is the one that's the least obscured. Well, this is a different house. I forget, I don't know the name of the road of this. I would have to look it up. I can get that to you. I don't know the
You
name
know
of
where it
the
is,
road.
Peter?
Not from the
I
photo, I do
don't know the,
not.
I don't know the name of the road. I would have to look. I've looked at a lot of properties, and I couldn't tell if I was looking at, what is it, the, not solar panels, but also the windows, the roof windows. What-
Skylights?
Skylights. I couldn't tell. So until you drive around, and you drive around for weeks, you don't know if you're looking at skylights or you're looking at solar panels until you drive past. So,
And so what was the other photo?
very tiring.
That's from the corner of Shaw
Oh,
and
yeah,
Fry
that's,
Road.
that's not even, I mean, that's, you can't even see it, really. I mean, I went there and I had to look really, really hard to find it.
Yeah, there, if you come up Fry
Yeah,
and you look straight in,
yeah.
you'll see even more than this. This is just driving past on Shaw, looking at that. But I was looking for it. Now, how many people just driving past are even going to notice it?
And the third one, you don't know where that location is?
There was only two.
Oh, I thought there was one.
Yeah, so the aerial is
Then- oh.
the Shaw and Fry one.
There was
Got it.
another,
Red
there
car
was
one,
another
Shaw
one
Fry.
that I had, but I honestly couldn't tell if it was a skylight or a solar panel.
Okay,
So
we
I
don't have a
didn't-
guideline about seeing things from a helicopter, I don't think, but.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay.
I can assure you this, I will do everything to make this fit the guidelines. This has been a 3.5-year project.
Except the guidelines say that it should not be visible, right,
Should.
from the street?
Should be
You know, I know
screened.
should, but it's a guideline, I guess.
Should
We don't
be-
know, that. I
should
mean,
be
this is really
camouflaged.
almost, I mean, if that's the only example, the first one, I mean,
But
that's
it-
not even close to me right now, but.
Walking through it, I mean, I think there's some unique characteristics about this application, which is corner lot, which obviously we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't a corner lot. And then, you know, two, some of us weren't on the committee when this got approved, but it sounds like the very intention of this design from the get-go was to have zero impact for this house. And I think if there was a way, from what I understand, to just do two roof sections and not the third, and get away with having zero impact, I'm sure that would be the case, but the way the system is designed, it has to have that amount of
But if
panel.
it was from the get-go, then it would have been part of the original COA, I assume, no?
It was in there, and I think if you go back and look at it, I decided that it could be added later. The initial request was, why try to get solar approved if the whole house wouldn't even be approved? That's why I'm back here now. Yeah, this was the intention all along, to come
And
back
I
here.
think the third piece is all the things, the tree coverage, trying to shape the trees in a certain way, try to soften the impact of this.
So Peter, in the reading of it, is it must be or should be?
I'll read both the guidelines that apply to solar panel for the record, so you guys have it verbatim.
Put it on record.
So, Section 3, subsection A, Item 10, roof ventilators, solar attic fans, and solar panels should be located as inconspicuously as possible. So that language there is should. And then Section 3, subsection I, Item 6, solar panels should be installed in a manner that screens or camouflages their appearance as much as possible and should not be visible from the street. Once again, should, and then camouflage. And he's camouflaged by doing the black, and he's screening by doing the additional landscaping.
And there was just one thing, for sure it is Matt, right? Because there is a more restrictive, not permitted, any treatment of material that in part is glossy or has a reflective finish. So it cannot be. So that's what I'm concerned about.
That's why I have,
But
this,
I know, but
this came at
It's a
considerable.
photo, I know.
Considerable.
That's a photo, that's why if I could see it
Yes.
on the
Seen
first
it.
two roofs.
Have you
Yeah,
seen the
yeah,
material?
Yeah, we've had the sample brought down. Did you see the sample?
it is, it's not shiny. It's going to soak up the
Shiny or
sun, not
reflective?
reflect.
Or
I don't know if I'm professional enough to say how reflective it will or won't be.
This would be nice
but
to see one. if we
yeah,
could
It's not
see
aluminum foil.
It would, if it were reflective, I've learned a lot about solar in the recent years, so I understand your question, and I appreciate it, because I asked the same thing. In order to absorb the maximum amount of solar sun, a reflective coating, based on the new technology that they have for this, and it's newer, it would not work the way it is supposed to. So, these need to be.
You want the sun light to shine into the solar panel, not be reflected off it,
Correct.
correct?
Correct. And the reason, again,
Took
that I.
physics in the seventh grade, I think. That's-
But the older ones are shiny. The older ones are shiny.
Yeah, and so
This
this,
isn't an older one.
right.
I get it, but I don't know what a new one looks like. I've seen old ones, but I don't have a piece of material to look at
He's
here.
testified that it's matte color or matte-like,
I had
and our
the,
choice is to accept his
sample.
testimony or not as true.
the solar company brought the sample down, and it wasn't the whole entire panel. It was, they brought, what was it, maybe a foot?
I was thinking like a file folder size, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
larger.
So,
Could I ask a question? Could we go back to the new tree screening that you're proposing, that plan?
Oh, wrong direction, apologies.
All trees fall over.
Yeah, don't trees fall. One thing you said has me a little concerned. You said this plan is preliminary. Is this what you're going to build or?
did
not?
I say that? No, this is not.
Okay, so with regard to the new trees, at the top left corner of the drawing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trees, they will be green giants?
Yes.
They'll be installed at 15 feet when installed?
12 to 15
12
feet
feet.
is what they told me. He's going to pick out what he has.
How far apart are they?
They will be almost completely touching on that side.
Can you give us a number?
I believe they're supposed to be 8 feet to 10 feet in diameter, is what I'm not sure if this is to scale. I can. Did he scale this? It's up.
And the boughs of the tree. will be
Correct.
Almost touching each other, whatever distance that is.
Correct.
Sorry, did you come up with a number?
I don't have a scale, but
okay.
even from my conversation with him, the minimal diameter of the tree, I'm told, is over 8 feet. So they would be nearly touching, or touching if they have to be.
So would it be reasonable for you to say to us today that you're going to plant them 8 feet apart?
Okay, yes, I will go with, yeah.
I'm more concerned at the fact that it screens, whether they're 8 feet or 10 feet, if the boughs are almost touching each other. That's about as much as you're going to get for screening on any tree, irrespective of the others. So
I'm-
testified that they're going to be planted such that the boughs are as much as you can do, touching. So if
Even
it's
better.
8
gonna-
feet, fine. If it's 6 feet,
Could you say that they, upon installation, they will be touching?
Yes, I'm going to rely on the expertise of the landscaper, of all the things on this house that I've,
For discussion purposes, my own experience is significant with green giants. Upon day one, planting a bunch of 12-foot green giants, you won't see the roof at all. So, anyway, that's all I have.
Any other questions for the applicant?
And just one more. So they'll all be touching, right, you're saying? And if necessary, you'll install more?
correct.
Okay,
That is correct.
all right.
You can include, if you need to include that, we're going to make it right.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Anyone else want to be heard on this matter? Hearing none. Oh, yes.
Whoever's going to make the motion, my preference would not to state that they're touching. See, I trust if someone's purchasing 8, 12 to 15-foot trees, they understand the intent behind that is to provide screening. That's the very purpose of 8 big trees. And however they lay it out on the site, after that plan is approved, whether this one has a foot apart and there's slightly different angles that block traffic coming through.
Well, 8 or whatever it takes, right?
Landscaper and the builder and the applicant.
Yeah, I might counter by simply saying, instead of that they're touching or that they're 8 feet, that they rather make it a performance statement that says they will fully screen the roof.
Yeah. Whatever number
On
it takes,
the-
whatever,
right?
I don't care if they're 10 feet or they're 2 feet.
No, but however many,
Effectively screens the
you go.
thing. That's what I'm concerned with, is the screening, not the distance.
And that
and
can
who
be-
decides that? That's Peter, when he goes back? Okay.
That's the McCaskill Road.
Yeah.
site,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
correct? I drive by that site several times a week. I've been watching that building go up with great interest. I think it's going to be a very nice-looking house once it's done. And obviously now you can see the back of the roof, at least the first 2 sections, very easily. And I suppose that Rubberneckers will start looking at it when the solar panels go up. But, I mean, my personal opinion is that if solar panels had existed at the founding of Pinehurst, Leonard Tufts would have insisted on all the cottages having them.
I agree. Based on what I've read, I agree.
Oh, I do. I'm getting a message. Discussion, or are we ready for a motion? Who would like to make a motion?
Strike. Performance standard, right? That's what
Yeah.
we, just clarification, it's a should. So
It meets
technically
the
this-
guidelines.
But
He's-
reflective and shiny is a must, not, so.
Yeah, but so it is congruous. There's no condition other than what we would like to see, which is meet performance standards. Okay.
If it were not visible from the street, staff could have approved.
I would have
this.
approved if it probably was not a corner lot.
Corner lot and the McCaskill side, at least right now, you can see the the back of the roof very easily. Once the construction is completed and the new landscaping is in, I think that that's hopefully not going to be the case, but right now, it's visible.
Correct.
Correct. Well, we haven't actually heard the motion yet, because Richard is
I
still,
assume-
still pondering it to make sure that it's exactly correct.
My point is, whatever it is that we're voting on is the completed project, not what we see now.
Correct, correct.
Packet is for your use in any way you see fit.
Okay, let's take a stab at this. Feel free to step in, gentlemen and lady. Upon due consideration of the application package submitted and the testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion and the project as proposed, subject to the condition that the 8 green giants and the additional 4 trees will be placed in such a way as to provide sufficient screening to limit the visibility of the panels to the greatest extent, and that upon meeting that condition, it will be congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District and consistent with Historic District guidelines.
There a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, do we need to enumerate the number of trees? Because it may be more, right?
Yeah, he said 8.
No, but should we enumerate?
could be
It could
less.
be more, right?
I wouldn't enumerate any personally, because if he can do it in 6, then I want 6.
But if it takes, and if it takes 10 or whatever, right? So,
He submitted a site plan and stated publicly on the record, he's putting in 8 trees. So it's 8 trees that we're reviewing. It's not an unknown number, it's 8.
yeah, but what if the 8 don't do it?
Come back before Peter.
Well, I think, may I offer a small amendment or adjustment to the language that simply states, will fully screen the rear-facing roofs upon installation.
Yeah, that I like.
Solar panels, beg pardon, solar panels.
Is that acceptable to the movant?
Suggestion is not to enumerate trees, but just to say sufficient screening. Adequately screen.
The solar panel.
Fully screen upon installation.
Fully or adequately?
Fully.
Yes,
Because of-
fully.
Adequately is subjective.
All right.
Is fully must?
Tom, did you second the,
Yes, I second that motion.
is that acceptable to you? All right. Is there any further discussion?
What is the motion, though?
I'm lost on the motion.
Yeah.
You restate the motion as amended?
The amended motion is that the applicant, upon due consideration of the application package submitted and testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion, and that the project as proposed, subject to the following condition, and that is the applicant will fully screen the solar panels from McCaskill Road. Is congruous with the Pinehurst Historic District and consistent with historic guidelines.
All right?
And I'll second the second.
Okay, all right. All right, that's the motion. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. No nays. Thank you. You have your
Thank
certificate of
you.
appropriateness.
Thanks for putting up with the interrogation.
Thanks for all the effort you're putting in.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Okay. That is obvious. Thank you.
I'm not kidding about Leonard Tufts. He would really have, he'd have loved this stuff.
It is interesting because I drive down that probably a couple of times a week as well.
Do they like
Ride the
that?
golf cart around there. I was wondering why it was concrete block, then wrapped, and then stucco, and then layer after layer after layer, thinking,
That's a big room.
now it makes sense, because, I was trying to figure it out.
He's not going to have to pay electric bills.
That's like Huff and
Trying to
Puff.
sell some stuff out there, right?
He got read that when he was a child.
All right, our final case is COA 106 involving new construction of a single-family house at 190 Savile Row. The property owner is Jeff Carroll, and the applicant is Bartlett Construction, and the witness is?
Kevin Bartlett, Bartlett Construction.
Kevin, is it?
Kevin.
Kevin, would you stand and raise your right hand, please? Do you affirm that the testimony you should give to the commission in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Peter, will you present the case?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider a request within the Pinehurst Historic District for the construction of a new single-family home at 190 Savile Road. Nope, that's not right. Savile Row. The property can be further identified in the Moore County Tax Registry by Moore County PIN number 855-200-363-578. The property owner is Jeff Carroll, and the applicant will be Bartlett Construction. This is the current photo of 190 Savile Road. As you can see, it is a vacant lot. Background on this is a vacant lot. It has no previous applications for COA. 190 Savile is not considered a contributing structure, and none of the adjacent properties are considered contributing. Once again, we have one very large parcel. It's now been platted, so there are 3 parcels there, but the entire property is the parcel that you see. But it will be divided up around the corner, which you'll see later in the site plan. This request is before the commission because new construction is considered major work, and all major work must be approved by the commission. This was the provided site plan, which they included a tree survey. They are indicating trees to be removed to accommodate the footprint of the building and the proposed configuration of the driveway. This is the proposed landscaping plan, and it is to compliance, if not overly compliant. This is the elevation. As you can see, we have hardy lap siding there, which is a consistent material, and the stonework is also consistent material. The proposed architecture is a quasi, maybe craftsman style home with the different uses of material and the pitched roof. And then here we have the left and side elevations continue with that lap siding, and the rear elevation with lap siding, but on the rear elevation we do have a screened-in porch. The submitted building materials were, sorry, my bad, Nichiha lap siding, which is a cement engineer product, which is like hardy, is the siding material. The crisp linen is the selected color. Miratech is the French roast, would be the trim, and the Pella wooden casement style for the windows, and the color choice is brown. The applicant has provided digital submission of material. All the material that has been submitted is compliant with the guidelines. At this time, staff would like to submit the following into the record: staff report, presentation, application, applicant's material, photo, site plan, findings of fact, and staff is recommendation for approval.
Thank you. That material will be entered into the record. Kevin, would you like to add to that report on the proposal?
Just that Mr. Carroll looks forward to us starting. He's very anxious to get to, they're going into wintertime up in Minnesota, so they're obviously pushing to come enjoy some better weather. So they're just looking forward to coming down and be a permanent residence.
Okay. I can see that there's nobody else here who wants to be heard. Record shows that. Questions from the members of the commission? Questions of the witness?
I have some questions. That siding, that's it's another brand from like Hardy?
So it's a fiber cement siding, which
Okay.
is
And it's a lap siding, but what is the width of the siding?
7-inch exposure.
7? And it does it overlap or not?
It does overlap.
It does, okay. I was wondering about the garage. Now, it's supposed to be set back at least 10 feet, right? Is that the rule?
If
The
it's
guideline?
detached, it's just multiple front-facing garages are not compliant. This is a single garage, so it would still be compliant. It is set back from the front facade slightly. I don't think there's a specification on the
I thought the
10
guideline
feet.
said 10 feet, no, okay. Am I dreaming? Okay.
I don't believe so.
I thought it had to be 10, setback at least 10 feet from the front elevation. Is that just a detached, or, okay.
What's that back?
I think
I
you
wrote
mean
it down
it's
from somewhere.
accessory structures maybe, or 10 feet, that's a requirement.
I saw it somewhere, I didn't make it up. I don't believe I made it up, but maybe I did. I'll look for it later while I just finish. The door, you have, the application says that it's a Mervyn Allen, and Exhibit B says it's a Wayne Dalton.
So Wayne Dalton's the brand,
Mhm.
and Marvin Allen would be the distributor.
Ah, okay, so can you describe what that door looks like, though? Because I wasn't sure what it looks like.
So I think these straight lines, square, is the, you know, it's a solid door, no panels. And it basically, the lines that you see on there are going to be the hinge points where the door folds as it opens.
Are there going to be windows? Because there was an indication that there could be.
Not currently, it's not drawn with windows, so.
And is that garage door, isn't glassy, like super contemporary, modern?
I would say modern.
Hmm?
I would say modern.
So it is glassy?
No, I wouldn't say glossy, but I would, with the straight lines, I'd put it in the modern category.
Is that,
It'd be
that
a me-
congruous?
it'd be a metal door, so it's the same door styles that are used in all the other homes in the area.
I just question whether you think this style is congruous with the district, because there are 7 styles that are noted in the guidelines that are prevalent. And where would you say this one fits in, just out of curiosity, or how is it?
I would need to know the 7 doors and the guidelines, so I
Sorry?
can reference. I don't
No,
know
I'm
the-
just talking about the whole house itself.
He's talking about the entire
The entire house.
architecture, not just the doors.
I consider it personally more of I don't know, a Georgian colonial style house, is probably how I would
Okay,
categorize
because
it.
I guess I was looking at it as really contemporary, modern, but,
I mean, I would, you know, yeah, there's probably some of that into it, but I would put it in the colonial.
really?
I mean, a Georgian colonial is more of a box, straight line. You know, I mean, that's, I got a picture on here I could, you know, show you.
Are there other houses in the district that you would point us towards that would have a similar sort of look? I understand, you know.
That's a good question.
Question, which is, it does have a modern feel to it. I guess compared to the last 2 houses that were built, you know,
In there,
that you
yeah.
did before us, which were, I think one was French and the other one's sort of a New England cedar shake.
And one's a farmhouse-like there.
Sure. I would tell you I'd have to study the surrounding homes. I mean, I just, you know,
Well, you're building another one of them, right?
I am,
Yeah.
right down the street there. Yes, ma'am.
This is much, I mean, that seems to fit in, at least with one of these prevalent styles. but-
Not the commingle applications, but on the previous application for the other house, which is sort of a French-looking house, we also discussed the house that was just before this application, as well as 1 or 2 other sort of similar houses within, one was on Mackenzie. So I know there was sort of that burden of proof showing congruency in similar houses within the district. I don't know if that's where you're sort of getting at. Ann.
Yeah, I am. I haven't seen one like this in the district that I'm aware of. I mean, that's why I was just looking you to
Yeah,
kind of bear the
I'll
burden
be honest
here.
with you, I'd have to study the district. I mean,
Sorry?
I would have to study the district if you're asking me personally, you know, I don't.
Well, it is the burden of the,
Sure,
on the applicant, right, to demonstrate that this is in keeping with the style.
Eclectic style. You have one style of house sitting right next to the next style of house, sitting next to even a third style of house.
Well, then eclectic should be easy to find another one then, right? Like this? If that's the case.
One house, I'm not sure that you're ever going to find one that looks just like the other house.
No, but we're supposed to live up to a standard of congruity and,
Arguing your point,
Yeah,
I'm just
but-
saying that as much as those are the general 7 categories that we have, I agree. But they're not the only 7 style of houses that are in Pinehurst. There's about every style of house, I think, you can imagine in this historical district. And I want to caution a little bit about comparing it only to the neighborhood houses, because that is not something that's.
And I'm not.
Oh,
I'll
I
take
know-
one
I know
and,
you're
I'll
not,
take
but
one
somebody
anywhere.
did.
Yeah. so.
And that's, I was just bringing that
Yeah.
up, but my only point to your raising of those 7 is those are not the only 7-style homes in Pinehurst. There are.
Well, all I know is the guideline says new residential primary structures must be congruous in size, scale, proportion, style, materials, and architectural character with it, with the range of existing structures, so.
In the entire district.
And I can't think of any similar, things that make this congruous myself, and that's why I was asking you, I guess, so.
Let's see, any other questions of the,
Windows.
Yeah.
Are they divided light or no? They're all
Clear
fixed,
glass. Clear glass is what's proposed.
Not divided light?
Yeah.
Or simulated, no Muntins?
No buttons.
Okay. All I have.
They are on the design, or on the sheet.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as it's shown.
As the way the elevations show.
Okay, that's all I got.
And I'd also like to point out that it is a newer area of, because it's developing homes in there. So, you know,
Checking, I'm good.
okay. Well, that's,
all right, any other questions of the witness? Discussion? Yes.
Guidelines say, as Ann pointed out, the
Yeah,
garage,
10 feet it should be set back 10 feet. I wanted to apologize, Dan was right
Okay.
on that, but the guidelines do say that the garage should be set back 10 feet from the front elevation. So that is correct.
new construction, they must be set back from the
Yeah.
main part of the house. In this case, they actually, according to the plans, step out a few inches, and certainly there should be some debate about just what constitutes the front of the house. In my mind, the guidelines make it clear that the garage is certainly subservient to the main part of the house, which would move the garage back many feet. I can't quite read the dimensions, but I would guess 6, 7 feet in order to comply with that.
currently the garage is 4'6" beyond the front porch, behind the front porch.
Beyond the recessed wall at the front porch, which
Right.
I would argue is not the main part of the house. In your elevation, you could make an argument, I suppose, that the wall on the right side of the front door is the main house. But certainly the garage is not subservient, it is, I would say, prominent, contrary to what the spirit of the language tells me.
Must be set back.
Must be. And so, I'm not sure about the 10 feet, sorry, I don't remember that, but nonetheless, must be set back. In my mind, this is certainly the reverse.
Now, I don't know where everybody stands on this, but we do have a special meeting coming up in 2 weeks. Is this something that could be continued? No, I know, but it's only 2 weeks instead of 4, right? So,
Question is, are we within the guidelines at this point?
well, I know, but first of all, I'm just asking sort of procedure, if, I don't know where you all are, and I'm just, if we're still,
Yeah. I might also argue that it looks to me like there's room enough to make it a side-loaded garage, which would make this whole issue go away.
We could proceed in a couple of different ways. We could proceed to a vote, in which case the vote might very well be to not approve this application, which would be up to the applicant to decide whether to come back to us with an entirely different application for this site or a modified one. The other thing we could do is to continue the matter, not reach a decision, and leave it up to the applicant to decide whether to submit a revised application, having now heard.
Eric, before we do, Mr. Hang, where does it say it's set back? Sorry. It has to be set back.
my guidelines on must
Okay,
confess.
I want to pull them up because I just want to make sure, because I'm doing it on my phone and it says detached garages and other accessory buildings must be set back. This is attached,
Yeah, must be set back, that's all I'm saying.
but this is attached. The guideline that I'm reading says detached. I just want to make sure that we got this right before we continue this guy's case.
I apologize, stand by while
I just want to make sure, because if my staff report was deficient, that's fine, I have no problem, I make mistakes, but I just want to make sure that we don't make any transgressions against Mr. Bartlett here. Did I not click it? There it goes.
Attached garages should not be prominent on the street-facing elevation and should be set behind the front facade of the primary structure.
So that, I think that's for existing construction, correct?
I'm on.
Residential new construction.
So that guideline is right there. So a garage that opens toward the front should be set back at least 10 feet from the front elevation, so that's the should. And then on this one, it says detached garages, other accessory buildings for residential construction must be set behind the front facade. Okay, well, this is an attached garage, so that must wouldn't apply.
Sorry.
It's a should, so it's not a must. This one we were referencing about it being, it must be set behind, is for detached garages. It's for detached garages. Hang on, let me zoom in so we can all see that. I'm also far a bit closer to my screen. So attached garage, my bad. Detached garages and other accessory buildings for residential.
So they're all shoulds, so.
Yeah, but
No, I'm just
I'm in the
making
same
sure that
place.
we're making our
Yeah.
decision based on accurate
every
information.
effort should be made to position garages so that the garage doors open to the rear side of the. I know, but these are guidelines that.
Know whether it would be feasible on,
Yeah.
As a should.
Well, they obviously meant it strongly because they said should 3 times about this issue.
Back up along the rest of them. For attached garages should not be prominent on the street-facing elevation and should be set behind the front facade of the primary structure. Every effort should be made to garage doors open to the rear or side of the garage.
I think the should is putting us in a position where there's nothing to enforce.
Well, I'm not sure that's the case. I mean,
Clear to me what
on
we're
a
trying.
single standing item, I have a, you know, if there's one item that says you should not do something, but when you get enough shoulds together,
But you got at least 3 here, right?
that's
Yeah.
what I mean.
Second, number 7 reinforces that.
I'm not arguing, I'm tending to be agreeing with you. I'm trying to see.
would it be possible to, on this site, to have the garage open to the side rather than the front?
Would be. It's a possibility.
But then you're going to have something that you see.
Driveway come back around and in the side.
Correct.
Instead of going directly in.
Well, more concrete, whatever it is.
Where I am is that the should word is like handicapping for me. And
It is, and it was intended to be.
that changes in the guidelines, for me, I feel like we're stuck with saying if it's got a should in there, it's a suggestion.
Yes. That is,
No, it's
it is a
designed-
suggestion.
Intentionally designed that way.
That when they wrote the guidelines, there was a lot of discussion around should and must. And what come down to the tail end is when the discussion was, if it's a must, it's a must. You got to do it, unless we waive it. If it's a should, because the purpose of these guidelines was to be able to help developers look at what we would prefer to have done, but is not a hard requirement.
Absolutely understand, and therein lies the problem.
Oh, no, that.
But, I mean,
You
we-
may perceive it as a problem, and I can't argue that, but the developers of these guidelines made it specifically that way. The intent was they did not feel that the things that were labeled should raise to the level of that. So
But
that's-
should and must, we still have to deal with it, right? And if it's a must, you just said we could waive it. So it's the
Well,
same thing
yeah.
with a should, we're kind of waiving it
We
or
do, and we
applying
think
it,
binder
so.
windows is one we do all the time.
Yeah.
But the issue comes down to,
And it seems
that's
to
the
me.
way it's written, and that's the way the guidelines, and we can disagree with the guidelines, but if we disagree them, the only option we have with that, if we think something is a should that needs to go back to a must, is we need to go back and modify the guidelines and make that
Right.
proposal.
Absolutely agree.
Okay.
So for the
But-
moment, all we can do is ask Kevin to, of his own accord, his good graces, change the damn garage.
And also, maybe find some contemporary style that we can say it's congruous. That's where I'm coming from too, so, maybe no one else is, but.
I mean, we're focusing on this guideline, this is not the application today. I mean, if it's okay, I'd like to hear from you, how important is this front-facing garage to the client and the design? Is that something that could be easily tweaked, if that were the case? Or is it something that would create pretty significant hardship for you to go back and do all
That's
this?
kind of an odd-shaped lot, so that's why I'm,
So when you look at the contours of the land, I mean, you're gonna have to cut in that hill quite a bit. So you have to do a lot of cut and fill there if you look at the site plan with the contours. So,
You have a little retaining wall on the backside. if
yeah, you're gonna have to
driveway's
berm it out, because you gotta level it up to, rule of thumb is garage always
it's
on the
not
high
just as
side.
quick, it's not just as.
No, it's not,
easy as
it's not a level lot where you can.
That side and put a piece.
No, it's not a level lot where you can just, hey, let's just swing it around.
That's kind of where I'm going with this, because that's the mitigating circumstances that we get to factor in when we make these decisions on how we interpret these words.
There is a cost
Five of us
factored in there
vote that
too.
way.
I guess I would say that if the word must were in there, and Kevin would be challenged to solve that problem, I'm quite sure he could. Looking at
Solve
this,
any problem, we could put the doors on the roof.
There's enough money, I'm sure you could.
I'm not talking about unlimited budgets, but I'm seeing by the siding of the house, there's room to the north. I know the lot is being subdivided. I don't know if it's already been subdivided. Maybe that line could tweak. I mean, you're handicapping yourself by the sort of pipe stemmy lot you got to begin with.
Again, it's a should, it's not a must.
So, I mean, we're back to where we were.
Yeah, but also the burden is on the applicant to show that it's congruous, so he could set the garage back too, right? That would also make it
Well,
less
with this
prominent.
particular design, it may be challenging because of how everything's set up. I mean, it was a custom design for, the homeowner gave direction to the designer the way he wanted his house. So when we start moving things around, we're taking his
Yeah.
wishes, wants, and believes, and we're changing that.
Right.
So I can't speak for him if he's open to it or not open to it.
No, I understand.
I'm not saying that solving this problem is not a burden on the applicant. If the word were must, not should, it would be a burden on the applicant. Not to say that there's.
And it would intended to have been a burden
Well, all these guidelines are a burden, aren't they?
Well, in the end, we have to decide whether the particular application that's before us is congruous or not congruous.
Right.
We can look at a must requirement. We can say, we're not going to follow it in this case because overall, and we've done that. done that. And on the other hand, we can look at a should, and we can say, in this particular case, that should is important, that in this specific instance, if we look at this front-facing garage and this particular building, we say, God, that's awful, it's not Pinehurst, then we should turn it down. So I don't think we need to focus entirely on should versus must. I think we want to look at the application as a whole. You know, I drive down St. Andrews almost every day, and every single garage in that area is front-facing. And the more I drive down, the more it drives me crazy. But they do that in those cases because they have narrow lots. You can't have a side-facing garage except in a corner lot in that area. You probably could do it in this case, but is it worth it? Would it be enough of an improvement to the congruousness of this house to require a complete redesign so that the garage faces the side or the rear, rather than where it is? I think, and I'm not suggesting an answer, I'm just saying that
That's a good
seems to me
question, and
that's
I
the
guess
question.
my concern is the overall style, and that garage being more prominent just kind of exaggerates that.
Eric's description of our task at hand is quite clear to me. And there's no question what the desire of the guideline is. Should or congruous if the garage door didn't face the street. At a bare minimum, would become less prominent.
I would like to point out that I did get a message from the owner, so he must be watching. And he really wants a front-facing garage. He just sent me that message. So he must be watching on the stream.
There are so many.
As Eric has clearly pointed out, that they may be for one reason or another, but would not be just because front-facing doesn't make it incongruous with the rest of the historical, because there are plenty of connected front-facing garages in the historic district. I mean, that's.
Yeah, and I would prefer, again, I'll just repeat where I am, not to make that a discrete issue. It's the overall style, and that just, yeah. Well, but I would rather not make it separate. Just the overall style is troubling. Yeah.
Argument, but the fact, that I'm just back to this front-facing garage is not incongruous any way you want to look at it to the historical district, in my opinion, because there are plenty of them in the later historical houses that have front-facing garages.
But you can't judge congruity ignoring the guidelines. The guidelines essentially spell out for us. Oh, that's clear to us, or certainly to me, what the intent of the guideline is regarding front-facing garages, or garages in general.
And I'd like to point out, it's not on the main artery so it's not a highly visible person that's going to have a lot of traffic. It's in the back of a road it's being developed, so it will eventually have more traffic.
It's private subdivision, and it's back on the end of there's.
Back in the cul-de-sac there, where, and it's at the back of the cul-de-sac, so the front will never see it, and it's not on the main artery of a road.
I absolutely agree. Unfortunately, we're stuck by not being able to give any value to, quote, neighborhood. We could say this is a brand-new subdivision, all the houses in there are new. You know, there are no rules because they're all new. We could say that the most prominent house in the neighborhood is it's got its garage facing Linden. It's very visible. But we've been told that we cannot assess neighborhood, rather whole district.
Well, I'm going to make a motion Chair doesn't usually make a motion, but I think, let's focus this. See, I'm going to make a motion. Upon due consideration of the application package submitted and the testimony given, the Historic Preservation Commission concludes the following: that the project as proposed is not in conformity with the guidelines. Nevertheless, the applicant has satisfied the burden of persuasion, and the project, subject to any conditions imposed by the commission, and I propose none, is deemed congruous with the Pinehurst District. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Discussion. Or shall we proceed to a vote? All right.
Well, no continuance, nothing? We're taking the vote right now? Okay.
You can make a second motion to continue the case. You can make a second motion to continue the case.
Okay.
But you have to vote on the motion that's on the floor.
You gotta vote on the first one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I have a point of discussion.
Yes.
I guess to Ann's point, that I'm feeling like because of the words should are all over the place in there, it's up to us to change the guidelines or live by them, and for that reason alone, I would favor the motion. It's up to us.
We have to use the guidelines we have tonight. We can change them for future cases, but we can't not follow the guidelines. Whether we like them or not makes no difference. So we have to follow. Yes, I agree.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Do a roll call. Although, Richard?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Thank you all.
You need to state the motion passes or doesn't.
1, 2, 3, 4, 4 to 1.
There you go. Yeah.
I almost voted against my own motion, but I thought that would be poor form. All right, that concludes the
Public hearing.
public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Thank you. A second? All in favor, say aye. We're out of the public hearing.
Quick, we have the minor work items
Thank you.
approved by staff.
Educational.
Operationally.
And I guess I'd like to
Well
tag
noted.
on to that the should, you've heard us argue all night tonight about should. The should's there to encourage you to design in certain ways. And my frustration is that that's not working.
So a lot of it is between designer and client. You remember, I'm kind of in the middle of, working everything within budgets and dreams. Yeah.
And that's why it sometimes is nice to have the designer, the architect, and the person here. I mean, and I understand they can't always do that, and it's not a requirement, but it sometimes makes everybody's life.
With going to the gated communities with the ARBs and the shoulds and the subjective areas and the gray areas, it's always a discussion, and I hear a lot of it because I'm always the one in the middle, trying to sort of make all the pieces work.
But look, Kevin, think of us as having helped you in this respect. The next time you meet with a client over an issue like this, and you wave the guidelines at them, you can tell the story that you sat here for an hour when you were waiting to get home for your supper, listening to these people worry about whether this design complied with these sometimes wishy-washy and sometimes hard to understand requirements. You know, we don't often turn things down. Certainly, we don't turn things down that the staff has looked at and thought is okay. But sometimes we do. And, you know, in this particular case, I think a front-facing garage seemed like a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. I know you didn't mean it that way, and I know this is what your client wanted, and under the circumstances, in another place, another time, it probably would have been just absolutely fine. But just remember this experience the next time you sit down with a client on these design issues.
I am in some of the conversations between designer and client, not all of them, but they do ask me to sit every now and then.
Architects can design things that can't be made.
Absolutely, they try to sometimes, but.
And you can also tell the architect that he has to come to the hearing and be the witness.
Take some of the heat, too.
Yeah, no, come join the party.
Got it. You got your COA.
Sure, no, it's definitely a trial by error for me, so I mean, it's, you know.
Best person to present the design is the designer, no question.
Sure, sure. But no, it's good facts for next one down the road.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, we've looked at the minor work items.
Yeah, so there were two issued between August 15th and, August 14th and, July 15th and August 14th. A minor COA for a patio in the rear at 215 Kelly, and then on 105 Graham did a rear patio modification and driveway columns.
Also, they were both rear patio,
They added a foot to their patio.
both houses, because I didn't see that, and that's what I was wondering about on Kelly Road.
Yeah,
It's just
so
a minor change.
they maybe should be switched, my apologies. It should be minor changes, and the other one should be rear patio.
Okay.
All right, that's it, unless,
All right, is
next
there a
meeting
motion?
is September 10th at 4:30. This one will hopefully be quicker.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. This was, you guys,